Hello everybody, I want to thank you very much for attending today's webinar, Innovation and Sales Growth Techniques. This is an exciting time in the energy efficiency industry and a particularly exciting time for energy efficiency done right. And I want to make sure everybody was on the same page as to new things, new products we're going to offer, and most importantly of all about things we want to do to prove the value of our product and techniques that have been working for other people within the dealer network. This is Dennis Roberts. I am the president of Energy Efficiency Done Right and Advantage Window Systems. Joining me is Keith Roberts, our business development manager, and Franz Hutchison. These are particularly exciting times because these last few days we've been having meetings in San Antonio, and we've got some people from Franz from England. We've got some people that deal with Japan and out of San Diego. We've got some people from Florida in with us, so it's real exciting to have a lot of great minds together sharing thoughts and ideas. First of all, I want to talk about why this is such a great time to be in the industry we're in. And as usual, you will be able to ask questions by typing in the questions on your sidebar. It says type message here. This webinar is going to be pretty straightforward, so we're just going to take questions at the very end. First of all, I want to again talk about why this is such a great time to be in the energy efficiency business and just use a few examples. We are in a great industry. It's a high growth industry because the energy conservation efficiency business is one of the fastest global growth industries, and also the clean air, which we've discussed before. Clean environment, cleaning up the air, reducing carbon emissions is projected to be an $8 trillion industry in time. But here's some examples of what's going on right now. This is all recent stuff. Wells Fargo announced they're targeting a 40% increase in energy efficiency within their infrastructure, a 35% cut in absolute greenhouse gas emissions through their operations, and $30 billion in loans and investments to support a greener economy, all by the year 2020. So you got three different ways that Wells Fargo is trying to improve their energy efficiency. That can be a source, because to me there's no doubt that we can be integral in helping them meet their goals more than any other product provider out there. Recently, Arby's announced that they're going to work with a company called Ecova. Ecova is a ESCO, an energy as service company, and that's an area we got to be aware of and be in touch with. So what Arby's is basically doing, as different from Wells Fargo, is they're reaching out for a company that's a specialty in corporate energy policies and to design a plan to help them become much more energy efficient. And I'm convinced, this being a good company, that they're first going to try to improve energy efficiency within their company, because it's interesting, as you see there, energy represents Arby's fourth largest controllable expense. So that's the expenses, and everybody needs to be looking at reoccurring controllable expenses. That's a very, very important part of any company become more energy efficiency. So if energy is their fourth largest controllable expense, to be a good competitive operation going forward and to protect their image, they need to control those expenses. So products like the products that we have and are going to be soon offering can really help them meet that goal. The Army has now said that they are striving for a net zero energy usage. Now that's absolutely incredible, given that the U.S. government, including the military, is the largest energy user in the world. So here we have a major component of the largest energy user in the world saying they want to be net zero, which is very, very hard to obtain. Well, one thing that hopefully you and I understand is that if they want to be net zero, they've got to attack a very large source of consumption of energy, which is the infrastructure of the U.S. Army. That's a huge part of it. So what they say is there is going to be a new design standard for buildings. Well, that important part of that can be the infrastructure that's there, making it more energy efficient, and a part of the new design standards can be some very important products like the SG90. How better to control the energy usage of a building than to attack the largest loser, the largest consumer of energy, which is the windows. As they're saying here, we have to create incentives for energy conservation in all of our installations. So even within that, they've got the joint-based programs. Each building manager and the building advisors, energy advisors, are responsible for reducing the energy consumption on an ongoing basis. So this is a very important part. So there you see food providers, our military. Most companies are looking forward, and they're trying to find ways to become much more energy efficient. So now let's talk about innovation. Let's talk about energy efficiency done right and Inflector. We want to use innovation to create additional revenue streams and assure that we are a category leader. Additionally, we want to make sure that we're not going to leave money on the table. We're going out and we're talking about energy efficiency. We know that Inflector should be an important part of that, but now we've got more options to solve that problem, and as you can see, we're going to have more, even more. So let's talk first about the products that are available now. The Inflector insulating panel, the Inflector insulating roller shade, the Inflector insulating vertical shades. Now we have the options of, because of the new products that we now have on the table, to utilize the Inflector BZ in any of these installations. So now we all of a sudden go from 3 products available to 6. The NP, which is our blackout material, non-perforated. We can use that in any of these product offerings. The SR15 is a product that we've just been working with, and what it actually is the SR15 stands for solar reflectance, superior reflectance, with a 15% visible light transmittance. The Inflector has about a 30 VLT. Now we've got a product that has half the VLT, superior reflectivity. Well, now we've got the ability to actually control the perforation size, so we can control that reflectivity quotient to provide more product offerings. And then we've got the low reflectance, which is actually a product that we're looking at for the historic buildings where it's not as shiny. So it's a low reflectance or a matte finish Inflector. Now if you look at the regular Inflector products plus any of these variations, now we've gone from 3 available products to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 3, 15 available products. For example, we could put the non-P or the blackout material on a roller shade. Now we've got the ability to immediately improve the light emissions into the building so that they can show shades or close the shades and show videos or slides and have a meeting. But at the same time, instead of like most blackout materials, now we've added a major energy efficiency component. So be aware of all the products and be aware of the possible additions. Now do keep in mind that if we have an installation with these products, we're not wanting to do those for 1 or 2 windows. We're not going to create a solar reflectance 15 product for a few windows. That's going to be in quantity, so it's going to be larger orders. But I'm going to tell you this, and we'll be getting into that in more detail. Since we've added more products, we've already stimulated new routes of creating business and taken some of that money off the table. In development or in testing, and indeed that's one of the reasons we're getting here, gotten together here in San Antonio, is to look at new options to grow our business. But products in development or testing, one is the SG90, which some of you have seen that we did. Franz in the UK recently did an installation at the United Biscuit Company. Okay, that's received very, very well, and they're actually looking at more installations of that. For those of you who are unaware, SG90 is actually an initial installation or total window replacement product that uses Inflector or one of these products up here between glass or between glass and another type of glazing. It can be glass, Inflector, and then polycarbonate or acrylic or one of these other products. But what it allows us to do is immediately provide a glass replacement or a new installation for glass that is far, far more efficient than the glass that you can buy out there. There is glass that performs very well, but sometimes the cost is so huge it's unbelievable. But the SG90 we've now got in, it's now in testing, and that soon will be a product that's going to be more widely available. We also recently did our first installation of Cozy Therm, which for those of you who know a little insight, is a version of the R Plus insulator. So it's another way to put on to insulate windows, and we want to be the dominant window insulator provider in the world. So this is another option. So that is in development and testing. We've done the first installation. I'm going to tell you, both of these looked extraordinary and are getting a lot of attention. Under development, we have the thermal break insulator, which we've just are in the process of finalizing our patent on, and then we've got another additional product. And keep in mind that these products do have alternatives, and they're going to be more alternatives around that. When talking to one of our partners the other day, we come across something that was very interesting that they brought to our attention. And what they brought to our attention is that the average new millionaire in our world today has 7 streams of revenue. So they're not basically putting all their eggs in one basket. They've got some diversity. Well, that's what we're allowing people in the network, our manufacturers and dealers, to do, is to have much more diversity and offer products. Energy efficiency done right, and our associates are looking now to expand our offerings to include innovative or cost-effective products that will impress existing and new customers. So what we're trying to do is broaden our ability to help serve people. Now keep this in mind. The goal of energy efficiency done right is to bring on new products that are either one or two things. They have to be innovative products, a total new innovation in a product, or cost-effective versus what's in the marketplace. So we're looking at innovation or cost-effectiveness. That's what we want to focus on. So people are bringing us products. Why are they bringing us products? Because we now have a global distribution network, a great global distribution network that is growing. And we'll get into that in a few minutes also. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to offer products that are either innovative or very cost effective. So right now we're evaluating products that will help us have a cleaner air, cleaner water, cleaner earths. We're looking at very efficient new construction products that will improve the infrastructure that we're talking about for the Army, the infrastructure for Wells Fargo, the infrastructure for Arby's. We're looking at superior insulation products, new ways of looking at insulating that will complement the Inflector to insulate the rest of the envelope. We're also looking at innovative major product financing. We're talking about for large-scale jobs. So that would be very, very helpful for us to grow our industry. So let's talk about now what we can all do to grow sales now. And the beginning thing I'm going to mention is something that's very unique. Sell all of our products. What we've done is we've looked around, and I'm going to tell you we've been victims of this right here in San Antonio. What I've noticed is that in San Antonio, something like 90% of everything we sell is the Inflector panels. Yet we can look at Ottawa, for example, with Crumper Solar products, and they sell about 95–98% shades. That's what they sell almost exclusively. Now, why is that? Let's examine that briefly. Well, we started out selling panels here, and we sell a lot of governmental military that lend themselves to that. But the number one reason we sell mostly the Inflector panels is because we've fallen in a comfort zone. We're not selling all of our products. So by all of a sudden putting an effort on to offer, show, demonstrate more the roller shades, the vertical shades, we can immediately incrementally increase our business. We're trying to sell one product to all customers when we ought to be selling all of our products. So companies that are selling mostly panels, they should also start introducing more of the other products. Companies that are selling mostly shades should start trying to make it a dedicated effort to sell more of the other products. So one way to grow our business is sell more products. Now, we've also seen we've got diversity within the products. Think about these other products and present them. And if you present them, you will sell them. Have a business plan, review it, and modify it as needed. We're going to have Franz on in a little bit, and I'm going to tell you, Franz was going along. He had growth, but not the growth he was looking for. He looked hard, and what he realized is he needed to change his business plan. The successful thing that we saw that Franz did is that Franz has a strength, and his strength is global network building, finding sub-manufacturers, finding dealers. And Franz started out with the intention of, servicing a segment of England. Now he's covering all of England. He's into France. He's helping us grow our business in Asia, in the Middle East, and recently also opened up in Russia. So look at your business plan. Am I using most of my time to do things that I do best, or am I doing things that I don't do well? The part of the change of the business plan that Franz made that made such a big difference was outsourcing the manufacturing. If you're better at manufacturing, then manufacture well and find more dealers and sub-manufacturers. Find people to handle other customer segments. Don't paint yourself in a corner and try to do it all yourself. All of a sudden you're looking at doing things that you don't do well, and you're spending more time doing those than things that you do well. So these two things can immediately increase your business incrementally. It could double your business. It could triple your business. Reach out to all your customer segments and all of your territories. Now, there's two ways you can service your territory. You can try to do it yourself, or you can do it through a dealer network. And the same thing with your different customer segments. If you are very much into commercial business and you also have other segments, then how do you go about all of a sudden getting the residential, for example? Or how do you go about getting the governmental military aspect or the institutional segment? If that's out of your comfort zone, then reach out and recruit a dealer that is his comfort zone, that is his specialty. So we're looking at very simple things. Sell more of the products, use yourself at your strength, and cover your customer segments and cover your territory. So Franz was in Newcastle upon Tyne, and that was his area, and he was working that area. But how did he grow his business? He's not even in the most populous segment of his market. So now he's got a dealer in Scotland. I'd actually call him a sub-manufacturer more than a dealer. So he's got dealers and sub-manufacturers in Scotland, in Ireland, and now he's expanding very much into the London area. Now, why is that important? 20 million people in London. So you've got all the customer segment there and the growth. How can you propose to serve England without serving London? So look out, and again, you can get in a comfort zone, okay? I've got Newcastle, I've got growth going there. Well, hold it. If you can get growth going in Newcastle, what kind of growth could you get in some of the other populated areas, again, including London? And I'm going to tell you, when you got a huge territory, then you also now have to look at the way you sell to different groups. I mean, there's a lot of difference in England between selling to the Scots or the Irish or the people in Wales or the people around London. So you got to really bring in those people that have the cultural intelligence for those markets. Another thing that we found out is very important is the way we're going out. We're going out and we're trying to close let's say, a commercial building that rents out office space. One thing I found out, I started talking to some people in that particular business, is that most of the people that have buildings will invest money primarily in two times. They invest money when they buy the building, and they get will spend money on the building when they're getting ready to sell the building. Between those two times, they are trying to spend as little money as possible. They've made this major investment in a building. They get it fixed up pretty much how they want to. Now they want to reap the rewards of all their work. They're not putting in money. They're taking out money. Then all of a sudden they say, you know what? I've got more opportunity with my money in other place. I'm going to sell this building. I've improved it. I've got it full of tenants. Now I can make a real good return on an investment. Now I'm going to sell the building. I'm going to do some fix-up projects to make it more presentable to people so I can get a better price on that. So I'm going in to sell a commercial building, and they're not just bought the building, and they're not getting ready to sell the building. They're just operating the building, and they don't want to spend a lot of money. How can I get in the door so that when they get ready to sell the building, they'll want to make these changes? I want to be a problem solver. I'm going to tell you, almost every building in almost every country has got a problem because buildings have got hot colds and cold zones, and there's nothing that the building manager can do except try to minimize those. But we can deal with that. We can make the buildings much more comfortable. We can make space that's not very rentable, because now we've taken off the corner office that has, let's say, western exposure, a lot of western exposure. Well, that space is very, very hot, particularly in a lot of countries. Or sometimes that space is very, very cold. There'll be spaces in every building that are hotter in hot weather than other parts of the building and colder in cold weather. If we can keep tenants in spaces that were hard to keep full, then we've made that building a much more attractive investment. So we'll be a problem solver. The minute I find out I can't sell the whole building, I said, I'm certain in this building you've got problem areas. And I told that to one guy, and he said, yes, we certainly do. He had a space that was open right at that particular time because he couldn't get anybody to rent it. Why couldn't he get them to rent it? Because when they're showing it, it's uncomfortable compared to other parts of the building. But if they change the dynamics on that building to make that space comfortable, then people are uncomfortable in other parts of the building. So let's be a problem solver, and guess what? Once you've solved that problem, then they're all of a sudden looking at that next worst space in other parts of the building. They're telling other people about that, so you can get more jobs in the building, and you'll be the one they think about when they're getting ready to sell that building, or maybe just right after they bought another building. So these are common sense things that can work, that can immediately change the dynamics of and the momentum of your business. This other one is just common sense things. Hand out your cards. Talk to people wherever you're at. Find out what kind of business they're in. When you have a client, you do well for them, ask them for referrals. Check back with your customers or prospects often and see. Sometimes things will change. Have you thought more about that project? You ready to start saving money? You ready to start making your people comfortable? You know, do those kind of things. Interestingly enough, Deanna up at Crumper Solar Solutions, she gets good repeat business by doing one simple thing. She sends out emails and calls customers and texts customers when it's time to reverse their inflector. So when they're up there in Ottawa, when it starts getting colder than it is warm, she notifies all her clients. Don't forget to put your inflector in the solar collection mode so that you can start taking advantage of that free heat when the weather's getting cold. Then she'll send them a notification. Hope it's getting warm right now. Don't forget to change your inflector so you can start keeping your house more comfortable in this twilight time just before we go into the hotter or colder weather. Invariably, when she checks back with the customers regularly, she gets them, oh, by the way, I'm glad you contacted me. I'm ready to do that other room. I'm ready to do the other parts of my house. Another thing I like to do when we do close a job and we solve problems, I like to leave them with a thought. Now we've plugged the thermal hole in this side of your house or in this particular room. Don't forget to, as soon as possible, start plugging those other thermal holes so that you can start saving money. You can't get payback until you do the job. We've got to start the job before we can start getting payback. So let's remind them when we do a job that let's start plugging those thermal holes, because it's really interesting in talking to some new construction jobs before. People say, well, you know, I've got a lot of shade on this side of my house. I don't need an inflector over there. I said, let me ask you something. Let's say that instead of being in this house, you were going to build a new house in this exact same place. Would you say, you know what, I've got trees on this side of the house, so I don't need to insulate this side of my house? Well, the fact that you've got shade doesn't help with your insulation. It doesn't help with your infiltration. And I tell you, even though it's shaded, that glass will still is a thermal absorber, and it's going to build up heat. Franz was telling me the other day about a building where it was overcast outside, and he had to check the temperature on the glass, and it was many degrees hotter than the outside air. You know, so we need to make people think about what they're telling us, and always think about doing the right thing, which is to make their home much more energy efficient. Work trade shows and always be the high traffic booth. It's not good enough to be there. This is a show that was going on in Dubai that Franz was getting our new partner going down there. I was so impressed because the two guys there, it's Ian and Paul. Ian and Paul. That's Ian there, right? Okay, this is Ian and Paul's wife. Both Ian and Paul were over there working the show. There were 5 people working that show. It was Franz, Ian, Paul, and both their wives. And as you can see there, they were generating far more traffic. In fact, it was interesting. They were contacted after that by this company, and they said, who is this company? Well, it was another company who was displaying there and saw the activity over there and said, we need to find out more about that company that was getting all the attention. So you want to be there and you want to attract attention. And Paul and Ian asked their wives to help them out. Well, that was a big hit because blonde girls in Dubai, that was part of the attraction to the booth. So that was kind of a bonus. But I'm going to tell you, they were enthusiastic about the product, and that's what makes other people enthusiastic and involves them. They did a great job on the demonstration and got a tremendous amount of interest. And I'm going to tell you some good news we received just yesterday. They've got their first major purchase. It's a multi-roll purchase from that particular show. And I'm going to tell you that job that they're going to do is not only going to create a lot of business there, it's going to be something that we're going to be bragging about, and we'll brag about all over the world. Because stop and think about this. We deal with heat in Texas. We deal with heat in Florida. We deal with heat almost everywhere. But they deal with a lot of heat, more heat than we've ever dreamed about. And one thing by dealing with all that heat is they already know over there is they know that tint is not a solution. It's not even a great Band-Aid, but it is somewhat of a Band-Aid for that heat. But they know it doesn't solve the problem. They know that solar screens don't work. They know that window treatments don't work. And when we got there, one of the kind of attitude was, wow, this makes sense. This is going to work. Where have you been? So work the trade show and work in such a way that you're the high traffic booth. Reach out to those customers, engage them, and once you start engaging them, other people want to see what's going on, and all of a sudden you've got some great momentum. Know more than the competition and sell the science. We do know more than the competition, and it's exciting. We start looking and people say, well, I've just heard about this new kind of glass. So they tell me about it, and I get on the website and I say, okay, what's so great about this new kind of glass? Well, that particular glass that they were bragging about does great with UV. Is it stopping less thermal heat? No. Is it going to stop as much? Is it going to reflect as much? Or has it got more emissivity than the 5% on most low E glass? No. They're just bragging about this glass that does a little better job than the normal glasses of UV. If we know the science, and people know we know the science, then that's going to be our in. People now rely upon us about enveloping and window issues at time. They've asked us to address those issues and make talks on it. So know your product, know the competition, and sell the science. Because I'm going to tell you, here's some science for you right here. This came from the EPA. A guy in a house, and here's your envelope components. Your envelope components are the floor, the walls, the ceiling, and the windows. Now, what's going on in this picture? What you can quickly see is Where is the energy lost in this picture? Why is that 40 degrees? Why is everything in this building relevant set to the thermostat and the windows relevant to the outside temperature? That's your thermal hole. Look at how it opens. That's your sources of infiltration. You know, here's your major problem on the envelope. It's obvious right there. So we know about windows. We know more about windows than most people who study enveloping, because windows are our main product. So know it well, and if you feel like that you don't know it well, then we've got people within the company. Frank Thomas is working more with us. He's a certified energy manager. He's done work for school districts. He's done work for the military. He knows how to help us look at particular issues. I'm going to tell you, I rely upon Franz. Franz relies upon other people. We have a great network of sharp people with varied expertise. Let's look at that client's problem and try and solve his problem. So know your business and let people know you know your business. Let's get into the other things here. Know the value of what you sell. And the first thing I'm going to sell, one of the things that comes back to us many, many times is, dentists, they sell this product cheaper. They sell this product much, much cheaper. You can get tint for this much. You can get solar screen for this much. You know, cheap windows are this much. Window covering, you can even buy this certain stuff by Hunter Douglas, and maybe that's going to work better. First of all, there's a value on your knowledge and your expertise, and there's a value on the product. But like we say here, if everybody bought based on price, there would only be one type of car. There would be one type of building. There's a market for different type of things. Some people are buying cost, some people are buying value. And the smart people are looking at the long term. It's very interesting. If you make a new home, they have these energy upgrade packages. Very, very small percent of the people buy an upgrade package on a new home. What we found out over time is, a lot of times if they'd have spent $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 more, they'd have that back in a few times. Now, you're paying for your house over 30 years. So the incremental cost of making that home more energy efficient is just a few dollars per month. Most of the time on an energy efficient project, right off the bat, you're saving more than it adds to the housing cost. So someone is saying, well, no, I don't want to spend $3,000 more on my new home. Had they spent that, they didn't look at the long-term ramifications. Had they made that investment, they would have got that money back many, many times more and been much more comfortable. Now their heating and air conditioning doesn't have to work. So know this about our product. The products people are trying to compare us to are deficient in most of the areas that our product deals with. Inflector, our window insulators deal with every energy and efficiency of window. Window shades, window tint doesn't deal with every energy efficiency. So I've heard people say you can't compare apples and oranges. You know, that's what they're trying to do. They want the benefits, but they don't want to pay the price, is what they're telling us. So when people tell me that they want to buy something cheaper, it just tells me they don't understand. They don't understand what they're talking about and doing. You know, I'm going to tell you, I've had people say that they totally changed out the windows and they were very disappointed because they couldn't feel the difference. They spent $10,000, $12,000, $20,000 and they can't even tell the difference in comfort. They're majorly disappointed. Did they make a good investment? You know, that's for them to determine. So know this, that one, know the value of what you bring to the equation, product knowledge. Know the value of your product, what it brings to the windows. And if you know that, then you know the value of your product. Obtain as much information before the appointment as possible. Be on the timer a few minutes early and be professional and helpful. And these are just good standard business practices. Seek out the primary concern or problem and be certain to explain how our product is the best solution. Someone is coming along and they're looking at another solution, and let's say that solution is window tint. And we start talking about their problem. And they say, you know, this room gets so cold in winter. Well, guess what? Tint is going to make it worse. Tint is keeping some of the ability of the outside sun to heat the inside air out, so it can make it worse. So they're considering a solution that doesn't make it better. Let's say they're considering window coverings and their problem is heat. Well, the window covering makes shade, but it doesn't stop the heat. The window is through the glass. Now it's being absorbed by and the window coverings can actually compound the problem. So if we know what the problem is, and I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people that go in there and they make assumptions. Oh, I know what they need. Find out what their main concern is, and then show how our product deals with that problem. Again, it comes down to be the problem solver. Use your tools and involve the prospect. And I'm talking about the things we take with us. The glass test kit is one of our favorite things. But I'm going to tell you, at a show, the freezer demo is phenomenal. The backlit display is a big traffic generator. The demo rollers, the demo shades, if I want to start selling less panels and more shades, then I want to have these kind of tools. So use your tools and involve your prospect. I always believe make a few points, ask them some questions. So if you know you're going in the best direction, we don't want to do the UV test in the glass test kit and take up some of our presentation time if UV is not a concern. But we had one prospect that bought Inflector only because of the UV, because he had Persian rugs and artwork, and he was buying it to protect his Persian rugs from the UV. So if we didn't know that, we're going along, we're making great points, but they're not good points for that person because it's not what's interested in them. Remember, this is very, very important. Customers do not care what you know until they know what you can, and they know that you care. You got to know that the customer understands that we're really trying to solve his problem. Some people are just trying to sell their product. The best way we can grow our business is by solving problems and getting that. The way the customer is going to buy again is if we solve their problem. Maybe we solve their problem on that side of the house or in that room. But if we solve the problem, then they'd be more willing to buy the product again. When Deanna calls them up and says, you know, it's time to turn their Inflector, we're reminding them about the benefits. And sure enough, that generates more business. Make sure you ask for their business at least twice. People a lot of times think they make their presentation, all the information is out there on the table, and they're waiting for the customer to react. Ask for their business. When can we make your home more efficient? When can we start saving on your utilities? When can we start solving your comfort problem? Can we get this going now? Can we schedule this? We're getting ready to get into our busy season. You know, we need to get this scheduled. You know, you got to give them a reason, but always ask for their business at least twice. Go for some big jobs. This is a real job that we're bidding, that we're looking, that I think it's very, very likely that we're going to get. See? They've got big problems in this building. Okay, here you got the people that are watching these swim events. This is an Olympic pool, and they have swim contests in there. When the sun is in a certain position over there, they can't even see the people in the pool. The sun is coming in through this panel, sometimes directly on the people, sometimes reflecting off the water. Sometimes the glare on the water is so much you cannot. You go to a swim meet, you can't even see what's going on. You know, we know that we put the Inflector on this right now, we're going to eliminate the problem that make this building dysfunctional. Because look at all this glass in there. This is going to be many, many rolls, and it's going to be a long-term project. And guess what? It's a showcase project. When we put this in, is that going to create more buzz, more excitement, more opportunity? It certainly will in a big way. So always remember, in your territory, there's going to be some showcase opportunities. Showcase opportunities lead to lots of opportunity. So what is working well for manufacturers and dealers now? Well, as we mentioned with Franz, he did an evaluation. He started spending most of his time doing what he does best. So doing that can be regarding manufacturing or network building. How am I spending my time? It can have to do with how you're promoting your business. You know, if trade shows are very productive for you, well, then you should have a steady flow of trade shows. If other types of advertising work for you, you know, you want to invest your money. So you need to evaluate, again, as we say, to use your time and your money the best way. Think out of the box and propose new solutions. We've got some jobs that are coming down right now only because we came up with some new products and people looked at these new products and said that they're an opportunity. The two things that I think of immediately is we're going to have our friends at Inflector Asia ordered up some Inflector blackout material for a hotel. This hotel was very interesting. Guests were very, very uncomfortable, and even though they had the thermostat set at what should be a normal temperature, these rooms were way too hot. They did a little experiment, and they found out that the NP is their solution to reducing the heat gain through the windows on these hotels. So now, because she thought of the product and tested the product, she's going to have something entirely new to sell, our blackout material. We created a new material for a glare problem, which is the problem that I mentioned, the SR15, the superior reflectivity. We came up with this product in our proposals and discussions in Dubai. We found a client that said, you know what, for this building, the heat gain is a much bigger problem. I'm more concerned about that than a great view out the window. I'm thinking to use the Inflector SR15 for the whole job or for certain parts of the job. So now we've got that was going to give them better performance and make them a happier client. And guess what? A lot of these people have multiple buildings. When we solve that problem, then they can think about it for other areas. Build great relationships. When you build a great relationship, people are going to refer business to you. We're getting referrals from a lot of people that we do a lot of work with out there because we have very good relationships out there. So a lot of times when we're doing trade shows, we're working to build great relationships at the trade show. We're seeing who else is exhibiting there, how are they exhibiting, what are they offering, can we work with these people. Be confident and think big. Believe in your product, believe in what you do, and it's going to be very, very productive for you. With that, I want to take just a moment, and I'm going to get Franz to come in because I want Franz to talk about, again, these aspects and some of his experience, one on the changes he made in his business plan, and then also in reference to some of the jobs that are in the works, and of course our recent success with the show in Dubai. Franz, again, is the president of Inflector UK, and he is in charge of the growth of Inflector all across the UK and into a number of other markets right now. One of our very important partner. Franz Hutchison.
Thanks, Dennis. Well, thank you very much for inviting me, Dennis. I'm just going to have a little chat. Dennis has asked me to come along here to give you some of my experiences, that's all. And I think mainly because I started like we all do, and that is we buy our first rolls and we get out there and we're trying to sell the product the best way we can. And my experience really started because I'm a building surveyor, so I understand a little bit more about the mechanics and the way that the Inflector works and how it would integrate itself into the building envelope. That was most important to me because I, a long time ago, realized that the glass industry wasn't giving us all the answers to the problems that we were getting with our buildings. So I always knew I was looking for the niche. I was looking for that thing that was going to resolve the problems within the buildings. So I started exactly the same way as most of you do start, and that is you buy your package from Dennis and you start producing your roller shades, your panels, or whatever you presume is going to work for your market. And being from the UK, I know that different people in different countries have different markets and different people see things in a different way. I mean, in the UK, we don't have a lot of fly screens, so we're not used to the panel idea. So I know that this is going to sound sometimes a little bit more directed to the UK. However, saying that, we've now extended our experiences across many continents. And Dennis was mentioning that we've gone from the UK over into Europe. One of our major successes at the moment is in the Italian market. We've brought on an Italian distributor over there, and of course in Italy, totally different ball game than it is in the UK. And then we've moved on to Russia. Russia's just come on as well, and I'm not kidding you, that is a very different place to place the Inflector. and we're just going through the initial teething problems that we've got with that area as well. And of course, we've gone over to the central sort of belt, which is Middle East, which is Dubai and the United Arab Emirates and Qatar and all those sort of areas which deal with a completely different problem than we get within the UK and in America. I mean, we're talking about deserts here. You know, it's 2 degrees cooler than hell over there. So we have a different way of being able to promote our product in those type of situations. And we've gone over into China. We've done a little bit in China at the moment. We've only just been over there a few months now, but certainly Hong Kong, which is a very similar sort of place to we get in the Texas area and that sort of slightly tropical, quite a lot of heat, etc. So that's very similar to your sort of marketplace. So we're getting a lot of information, a lot of ways that people in different places have different problems, how they want to be, if you like, presented with the Inflector. Now I think I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this because over my experience, and I have tried, because when I first took on the Inflector, I just thought this was a product which deserves to be a huge success. So therefore, I was trying all sorts of ways to get my rolls. I wanted to sell more rolls. I wanted to sell more things to more people. And I wasn't getting the traction. I wasn't being able to get out there and be able to do some real damage in the place because it's a new product. People are not used to the way it looks, etc. So what I found, and I don't know how anybody else has found this in America, but I do know across the rest of the world this works for us, that if you do expos, exhibitions, trade shows, that sort of thing, it gets the biggest and best response ever. And there's a very good reason for this. We've done quite a lot of research. We have a research company that works for us. It's part of our sister company that is Inflector UK, and he looks at it in a very different way than I look at it. We're looking at technical, we're looking at, Inflector, we're Inflector based, we've got our head down, and we don't really see it from an objective point of view. So anyway, eventually I was asking the guys, why are we selling more when we go to the exhibitions than going out into, knocking on doors, getting invites into people's buildings, etc. But we got a lot more response from actually doing exhibitions. And I found there was a few things which made a big difference. Now, first of all, the exhibition means that you can look somebody in the eye, you can take your glass test kit, and you can produce the wow factor. Now, the wow factor for the person who's looking at it, and I'm sure we've all experienced it, and people who have actually done exhibitions will be able to tell you, the stalls, the stands, whatever you call them, booths, just crowded out with people saying, what is this? What's going on? Why is there such a buzz about this new sort of product? And so they're getting the wow factor for themselves. It's passing on from other people. Always get their business cards. Always get their contacts, because you can follow that up afterwards. But that's what we've done more than anything. But let me tell you something else that happens from the wow factor. The response in the people that you're selling to creates a passion within yourself. The product itself is fantastic, okay? So you've got to be thinking about, on a subconscious level, what's the response of the people that you're selling it to having on you? Now, I've experienced all the negative. I really have. So, you get these people coming to you and they have all these barriers that they put up. Oh, I don't like this, or this doesn't work for me, all this sort of stuff. Now, you've got to ask yourself one question. What effect is that having on your way that you are expressing for the Inflector? Now, because I've done lots of exhibitions and because I've got this feeling from the people, and I'm not kidding you, when we send it into these places where they have got huge problems, and believe me, windows give everybody huge problems. I don't know anybody in the world who hasn't got a problem with a window. Once you get that feeling inside of you and you can put the passion into and also know your product, because you've got to know how to answer all those negative aspects that people come at you with. And believe me, there's a lot. So quite literally, first of all, I mean, Dennis was asking me, because he's mentioned a few things that we've done around in our ever expanding state, if you like, of Inflector. We're dealing with virtually half the world at the moment, and he was asking me how I can express from a global aspect how, if you feel part of a global concern, then that's going to make you feel better about the product that you're selling. Because all I'm trying to do is to give you the enthusiasm that I give my guys out there, which it's a knock-on effect. I mean, they sit back now and they just think this is a fab product. We're selling, rolls all over the area that we're doing. We're selling, our production is becoming a lot better. And there's a few other reasons why that happens. Because originally when we first took it on, we hit problems because people gave us situations where the Inflector wasn't quite being able to deal with their specific problem. So Dennis and I have been working together with regards to putting the product list into a better situation. Now you've got a range of products now which deals with virtually every situation with regards to the Inflector, to the window insulation industry. Those new products, you need to study what they're about. I mean, the first thing that happened, I'll explain the 15%, which Dennis has obviously said. The 15% came around, and it has knock-on effects as well, mainly because we have a problem in the Northern Hemisphere with what's called, in winter and in sort of springtime, when the sun is low in its zenith. Because in the north, obviously, it hangs low in the sky. Now, Inflector, as you know, stops 80% of the glare. Brilliant. But if you can see the disk of the sun, 80% reduction in the amount of power that comes from that sun isn't enough, especially when you're dealing with computers. So we decided to reduce the amount of visible light transmittance that happens in those particular areas. But the beauty of it was, when we put this together, from the opposite side, i.e. how much rejection is the sun going to have now on this new product, it increased it tremendously. I mean, we've actually got the piece of material now being tested, so you should have the accreditation and all the results from that. But it has actually increased our solar rejection value immensely. It's also increased, obviously, the shading coefficient, and those two together means that anybody with a big glare problem, and let me explain one of the ones that we had in Hong Kong. They were building a brand new building, and they want to put the Inflector into the glass because the glass isn't good enough, and it's a brand new office building. Actually, it's a hospital. But the top of the building sticks up above the rest of the buildings in that area by about 10 floors. So consequently, the glare factor, when you're actually being shaded by other buildings around the area, no problem with the standard Inflector. The second we come above that position, we're getting much more solar gain into those buildings. So they said to us, what can we do? So I said, well, I can increase the solar rejection X amount. So they said, well, that's absolutely fantastic, because it means that our air conditioning units, which are having a struggle to get to that height, they're not individual air conditioning units. These are major air conditioning units, which has to pump the to the heads, which cools the thing. It's a bit technical, but anyway, what it meant was that it was much more efficient for the top section of that building to work, and that was reducing the glare from it and reducing the amount of solar gain that that building was getting. So there's just a typical example. We've now sold, I don't know, I think there's about 20 rolls in that particular building. So you see how it can just, one little thing like that, you've got the answer, the engineer listens to what you're saying, you know what you're saying to these people, they're listening to you, and they'll take you on as being the expert in the industry. And that's what's happened to me. Quite literally, everywhere we go now, they want to get us involved, and not anybody else. So I think that, I mean, I can go on for ages because I'm passionate about this, and I know that the time is running down on the screen there. So I think more than anything, I think that to get this into perspective, really you need the product knowledge which will drive the passion. I mean, you can hear me. My passion for this product is second to none, and I can enthuse that. Hopefully I can do that to you, but I can enthuse that into the people that work for us. You know, and we're all a big sort of family that I have working with me, and we're all working in the same direction. We're working together, and cost prices and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's all that. There's arguments in that, but quite literally, if you can get that passion and if you have the product knowledge, it's like an armor, and you'll be able to drive the business forward using all the stuff that Dennis has been talking about today. That's pretty, pretty basic stuff when you're into selling. So all of that as well. I mean, I'm not a salesman. I'm a technician. But I tell you what, when I put this technical ability with my passion, it sells itself. So whether I'm a salesman or not, but that's what happens. Anyway, I'd like to be able to hand this back to you now, Dennis, and I hope that that is going to help you. And I'm always available if anybody wants to have a chat with me. I'm sure that Dennis will be able to pass my details on. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you again sometime. Bye-bye now.
Thank you very much, Franz. That was very informative and got my juices going, so I hope it did you. Okay, continuing on, and since Franz is up, this is a great one. Develop and use resources. And this actually is an installation at the Building Research Establishment, which is outside of London. When Franz had the BRE test Inflector to provide certification for the UK and the EU, he made an arrangement with him. Part of that arrangement involved the product being on display there. You can see some of the materials on the product. Well, Franz has meetings in this particular room. That's part of his agreement with BRE. So he's got a great resource that gave him certification, but he extended the use of that resource. So it was interesting that people from Italy he met in this exact place. And so they're seeing in an independent third-party building the Inflector in use. And amazingly enough, as fate would have it, the receptionist there also spoke Italian, and she loves the Inflector. She bragged about it to these guys in Italian. So let's talk about optimum use of resources. That's a great resource that Franz developed, and use that resource. And I use the resource myself because when people want to talk about, well, what about the product? Well, if you've been in the Dropbox lately, you see we just keep adding wonderful tools in there. And the BRE is one of those wonderful tools because it was an in-depth analysis, and it has very positive points about the Inflector. So develop and use your resources. So what we all need to do now, one, we need to sell performance. We have a performance product. We want to sell it as a performance product, and we don't want to sell it cheaply. You get yourself in a cycle, and people start establishing that value. One of the other things I do is when people feel like a lot of times they have to negotiate the price down, it's very important when you're talking to people about negotiation that the first move be a very small move. So if I'm sitting there and I'm talking like for $30 a square foot for the Inflector, and they say, oh, but I got this big job, I'm going to use a lot of Inflector, I need a better price, and I'll say, I act like they're trying to ask my firstborn, and then I offer to them for $31. If I jump down $5, they say, they think in their mind, well, I got them down, $5 in only a few minutes, so I can probably end up getting a product for $20. But when you go down a very small amount, you're telling a couple of things. One, your product is valuable, and there's not a lot of room in there. So put a value on your product and hold to that value. Know where the customer is from, and do not offer a quote from anyone in a represented area. We've got a situation right now where our manufacturing partner with Helberg Energy Services in New York did a project, and she did a project with her own time and effort and product at Newburgh Base, and I think it's in Buffalo, New York. They're very impressed with the product. Now they're wanting to do buildings, multiple buildings. We're talking about thousands of square foot of Inflector, not only at Newburgh, but at Stewart Air Base, and we think it's going to expand from there. But they're basically put it out for bid, and we've got companies reaching out to all the Inflector, many Inflector dealers, particularly from the Northeast, trying to get the best price they can. Well, there's no reason why somebody in Maryland, for example, should be quoting someone in New York State. So the first thing is someone says, I want to buy some Inflector. Oh, that's great. Where are you at? What type of business are you in? What type of building are we talking about? Well, I'm up in New York. Oh, well, let me tell you, we've got a great representative there. Let me refer you to them or refer them to Energy Efficiency Done Right. Let's make sure that the people in the area are getting to represent the Inflector. We can all assist customers from unrepresented areas. So like right now, just take for an example, Oklahoma. We don't have a manufacturer dealer in Oklahoma. So someone from Oklahoma contacted me. I could provide it to them, but let's make sure that we're, again, not providing it cheap, because what's going to happen when we do get a manufacturer in Oklahoma, then they're going to absorb the client. So you can make money on that customer now and help them and also grow our business and grow your business, but we don't want to underprice that, because then the person who comes in there is basically already starting with a step back. So make sure that if you get contacted by someone in an unrepresented area, you're protecting the integrity of the product and the value of the product and not selling it cheaply. Get customer testimonials, take before and after pictures, and share your successes. That's an integral part of our Master Dealer Manual, and our Dropbox is having these good referrals. So share that information so we can share the success with other people and take advantage of it. This is the contact information for myself and Keith and Franz. We wanted to make sure that you make note of that. As you all know, we're all available. We're going to take questions in a few minutes, so you can start putting some questions in there. You can ask questions of any of us here on that, and you can also feel free to contact us by phone or email as a follow-up to this whole thing. So put your questions in there. We can go back to any one of the slides. What I want you to mostly understand is that we're in a perfect time for the energy efficiency industry. We got a great product, and we're trying to grow with products to do this. And we are going to grow, and I'm going to tell you, it's so exciting. Franz will attest to this. We've met some wonderful people that are going to add to our ability, and we've got some wonderful new products we're looking at that are amazing. They are just downright amazing. They are as good in their own area as Inflector is in ours, and they're going to present a lot of opportunity. So we want to make you aware of those. So with having said that, we are open to any questions. I see that I don't have any yet, so what I need you to do is to type any question you have in there, and then we still got our meetings going on, so I'm not going to be very accessible today, nor will Franz or Keith. But from tomorrow on, and we do watch your email and respond to that, we will be watching for those emails and questions, and we will be allowing you to more opportunities. But keep in mind the wonderful things we brought up today. I'm going to tell you, momentum has been phenomenal. I didn't even mention that we're now, Franz mentioned Russia, and if anybody wants to get to see something interesting, look at the Russian website. Also, you might want to look at the Cozy Therm website. That's pretty impressive too. And Pakistan has got the new site that's new up. Chile. Where else, Franz? And not only are we in Singapore and Bangkok and Thailand now, but we are doing shows in these areas. And I'm going to tell you, we are always the most popular booth in these shows. And I'm going to tell you, never have we had more just emails. Where can I get more information about Inflector than we're getting right now? Well, I'm going to assume that because I'm seeing no questions that everybody is content with the information. Oops, here I'm seeing something that just came in. It's nice to know we have a okay, what they're saying is it's great to know that we've got other products. Can we upload some product specs and product comparisons on Dropbox so that we may also use this information in our territories? I've had a look at the websites of Inflector UK, EEDR, Inflector Asia, but this information is not available in the Dropbox, is what he's saying. So it's interesting that Franz just mentioned a while ago they're testing the SR15, and again the 15 relates to visible light transmittance. So that information isn't available yet. Again, we've just had our first installation of the SG90 up. We're going to be changing our approach on that. Franz and I are talking about that right now. So I'm going to tell you there will be new information. Keith's doing a great job, if y'all have noticed, in the Dropbox. So there's great information there. We're doing new videos. We're doing new product training information. So I will tell Rehan. Rehan is our new manufacturer. We're real excited about Rehan in Pakistan, and we're going to have some great successes there. So I will tell you, we will be adding stuff to the Dropbox very soon for these. And also I'm going to ask Keith to try to make sure that amongst our dealers, Franz has got some incredible artwork because of the resources he has. So we're going to, when we get something new that's out there, we're going to try to put that in there. So very good question, Rehan, and this is something, yeah, we'll try to share. Incidentally, another thing on the Dropbox, be very, very careful that when you download, you don't delete. We've had huge issues lately of losing stuff, and it's very good that Dropbox has a protection, but sometimes we've gone back to reconstruct the Inflector, and it actually adds multiple versions of things back in there, so we have to go clean it back out. Now, one thing I want y'all to notice about the Dropbox is we've changed it up some. Keith has a testing. We got one. He's putting things in folders that make sense. So now it's going to be a little bit easier to find when you go into the Dropbox. We're trying to put all the testing in one folder. So now you'll find the all the testing information available in that one folder. So when you get in there, please look at it, make use of it, download it, but don't try not to alter anything. Don't put it back in a different place. Just download it and use it, and then exit, but do not alter it. Well, that's the only question I see, and it was a great question, and we will be providing much more information. And first we'll do it like a email to the people, to everybody, and then we'll add that information into the Dropbox on these other products. Again, some of these things are in testing. We're looking at products that, again, are other clean air, clean water, these type things. It's not going to be for everybody, but we will discuss it with everybody, and if you can find a resource to put these products to use, then you'll have the first opportunity in your market area. So with that, I'm going to conclude our webinar. I want to thank Franz very much. I want to thank all of you for the effort that you made. We've got some great momentum going because of the effort being put in out there. And if we continue to share our successes, then we're going to multiply our abilities. And as we find the uses for these products, and also feel free to come up with suggestions. We've got another one of our manufacturers now who's seeking a patent that's a slight modification that will create more business. So if you come up with a patent idea, we're open to it. Please share that with us. So with that, I'll conclude the webinar. Again, feel free to contact us. We can actually do a custom webinar with you, and through all of our effort, we're going to gain incredible successes. Our time is now, our product is right, and you're the person that can take it in your area to new levels. But we need to have a concentrated professional effort and seek to grow our business on a daily basis. Thank you very much. Have a great week, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.